Imagine a world where the United States leaves NATO. For over 80 years, NATO has been the bedrock of global security. But what if the US decided to just walk away? A seismic shift in the world order, redefining power, peace, and prosperity as we know it. At the heart of NATO lies Article 5, the Collective Defense Pact. Without the US military might, the troops, the resources, the nuclear umbrella, Article 5 rings hollow. The promise of collective defense, the foundation of NATO, starts to crumble. A US withdrawal emboldens actors like Russia, giving them the green light to flex their muscles. The Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania would be vulnerable, staring down a resurgent and emboldened Russia. Vladimir Putin is playing a long game. He's watched as the US grappled with internal divisions. With the US out, Putin could move with impunity. He could stir up trouble in the Baltics, prop up separatists in Moldova, even make a play for Ukraine. And who would stop him? A fractured Europe? Some say Europe needs to step up, to pull its own weight, but even if every European nation doubled their military budgets, it wouldn't fill the void left by the US. The US military is a global superpower. Imagine European nations diverting funds from social programs, all to beef up their militaries. The social fabric of these nations, the quality of life, would be at risk. The nightmare scenario that keeps defense experts up at night, the proliferation of nuclear weapons. In a fractured NATO, smaller nations might seek their own nuclear deterrence. Imagine more nuclear powers, more fingers on the trigger. The risk of miscalculation, accidents, and regional conflicts spiraling out of control skyrockets. The stability and safeguards preventing nuclear war for decades start to crumble. The fallout from a United States exit from NATO wouldn't be confined to geopolitics. It would send shockwaves through the global economy. The IMF predicts a 2% drop in global GDP over 5 years. Trillions of dollars wiped out, businesses shuttered, jobs lost. The global economy, already on shaky ground, could be plunged into chaos. The globalized world relies on interconnectedness, but in a world where NATO is in shambles, those connections fray. Imagine cargo ships stranded, factories idled, shelves empty. The cost of goods would skyrocket, businesses would struggle to survive, and consumers would feel the pinch. The global trade system could collapse under a fractured NATO. In the shadows, watching, waiting, is China. A US withdrawal from NATO would be a gift to Beijing. It would create a power vacuum that China would be eager to fill. Imagine China extending its Belt and Road Initiative deeper into Europe. Slowly but surely, the balance of power would shift eastward. With the United States retreating from the world stage, traditional alliances would be upended. Europe, facing threats from the east and abandoned by its longtime ally, would be forced to forge its own path. Some might turn to China, enticed by economic opportunities and promises of security cooperation. Others might find themselves drawn into Russia's orbit. The old world order would crumble. What becomes of the so-called leader of the free world in this new reality? The answer is stark isolation. By turning its back on NATO, the United States wouldn't just be abandoning its allies, it would be diminishing its own standing in the world. Without NATO, the United States would lose its platform for projecting power. The United States would find itself increasingly isolated, a shadow of its former self on the global stage. The consequences of a United States withdrawal from NATO would ripple across the globe. A world where the rules-based order is in tatters, where might makes right and conflict becomes the norm. Democracy is under threat, human rights are trampled. The future of our planet is at stake. Former NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg put it bluntly. The transatlantic bond upholds democracy. Breaking it risks peace. The United States' withdrawal from NATO isn't just a strategic blunder, it's a moral failing. The future of our world hangs in the balance.